Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and all Bitcoin holders need to be paying attention to this chart just here and this chart just here, because these two Bitcoin charts show us just how close we are to the Bitcoin bottom for this correction. I'll also be going over some other patterns later in this video, so definitely stick around all the way to the end of this video so that you're not missing out on any of this important information. And just before we jump into it, make sure to leave a like down below. And if you're new to the channel, you might as well subscribe with notifications turned on for more updates just like this every single day. But with all of that out of the way, let's get straight to what this video is about. So right here, we're on the Bitcoin US dollar chart on the 4-hour time frame, and as you can see here, we have that small bullish divergence that I talked about yesterday on the channel. As you can see, we have made lower lows in the price action if you're looking at that wick to the downside here, but looking in the 4-hour RSI, we have made higher lows. So once again, that's a bullish divergence. And when I talked about this pattern yesterday, once again, I said it's very likely we're going to see some reduced selling pressure in the short term, and that would either come in the form of a bit more of a sideways consolidation or a slight bounce back to the upside. And that's basically just what we've seen since yesterday. As you can see, reduced selling pressure. So technically speaking, this is still playing out, especially while the RSI is still trending to the upside. But now taking a look at the 6-hour Bitcoin chart, and you can see how similar this correction is to the September correction. I've been saying that almost every single day since we really started this correction, because first of all, what we have here is these two green horizontal price ranges, and they are determined by Fibonacci levels, more specifically the 38.2% Fibonacci retracement level, which back here during September, that was coming in at approximately $44,000. And so I've just taken a small price range just above that Fibonacci level. And now bringing out the Fibonacci retracement tool this time around, what we have here is the 38.2% Fibonacci level coming in at around $58,000. And once again, I've done the same thing. I've just taken a little bit of a price range above that level. And what we can see from these two horizontal price ranges right here on the chart is the fact that first of all, we had a very bullish move to start all of this. And then we started finding major supports back here during August in this green price range, even before the September correction started, just like how back in October, we started finding a huge amount of support along this exact price range, even before the November correction started. But then eventually, after seeing a lot of sideways price action holding above this range of support back here during August and September, and also more recently just here, during that time period, we formed some major bearish divergences, especially on the daily time frame, and I have discussed that previously on the channel. And both times here, that led us into a correction that moved the Bitcoin price below this major range of support. And back here during September, we actually flipped that into resistance. As you can see, we saw a few rejections from that price range. So in the immediate short term, yes, that was a bearish signal, but the moment we finally broke back above that price range, that is when we really started flipping bullish again. And we've seen the exact same thing play out right now. Once again, we have dipped below this important range of support, and more recently, we've actually flipped that into resistance with a rejection from that price range. And not only that, if you're looking at the specific pattern that we're forming right now on the 6-hour time frame, we are currently forming a descending triangle pattern, which historically speaking is a bearish pattern, meaning that it is more likely to break to the downside. But when you're talking about the statistics for this pattern, about 7 times out of 10 it breaks to the downside, and about 3 times out of 10 it breaks to the upside. And so obviously at the end of September and the beginning of October, this descending triangle pattern back here, even though it was a bearish pattern, the bullish outcome that we saw happen after that pattern happens 3 times out of every 10 descending triangle patterns. So obviously that was one of those 3 times. And once again, we are simply forming the exact same thing right now, a descending triangle pattern just below this important price range, the 38.2% Fibonacci level. Even when you're taking a copy of the price action that we saw back in September and bringing it over to the current price, this really does reveal how similar this correction is to the September correction. So if Bitcoin simply continues to play out this correction like the September correction, then possibly within the next couple weeks, we could expect a decent sized bounce here for Bitcoin moving forward. Now, I'm not saying that that is guaranteed, because of course, nothing in these markets is guaranteed. All I'm saying is that right now, the current price action is looking extremely similar to September. And so if that simply continues to play out, then we could be due for more bullish price action in the coming weeks. But considering the fact that we have not seen any confirmed breakout to the upside above resistance yet, you should still always accept the possibility of potentially a little bit more bearish price action before then we bottom out, because we only really start to confirm a recovery once we finally start getting above some of these important levels. And one of the most important levels that we need to break back above and hold above is coming in at around $60,000, because once again, the recovery starting in October only really happened after Bitcoin finally started getting back above some of these important levels. So even though I'm slowly dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin right now, that is only on the spot market. So if we do play out another dip to the downside, it's not like that's going to get liquidated or anything, and I could just continue to accumulate more Bitcoin, because of course I'm not going all in, I'm just dollar cost averaging. And as for something like a long position, I'd like to see more confirmation that we are really breaking out to the upside, which we haven't seen just yet. And now zooming out to the daily Bitcoin chart to give us a different perspective on this correction compared compared to the September correction. And once again, things are pretty similar here on the daily chart as well. We're currently forming what seems like a falling wedge pattern, which is a bullish pattern, but I'd like to see another touch point along this line of resistance to really confirm that this pattern is forming. And by the way, that line of resistance is coming in at around 61,500 US dollars. And we saw a similar thing form back in September, as you can see. But once again, it was only when we saw a breakout above that point of resistance that we really started the next major move to the upside. And just as important, we needed to see a breakout in the daily RSI above this resistance, which right now you can see here that we are still trending to the downside in the daily RSI. We haven't confirmed a reversal yet, but with that being said, we are definitely closer towards oversold territory than we are to overbought territory, meaning that technically speaking, we are closer towards the bottom right now than we are to the top, at least according to the daily RSI. And usually when the daily RSI gets close towards the bottom of the RSI band, historically speaking, in most cases, that turns out to be a great buying opportunity, just as we saw back in July and also once again back in September. Now, I want to make it clear that that is not always the case. For example, back here during April, the daily RSI plunged all the way down to the bottom of the RSI band. And yes, that was a short-term bottom. And yes, we did experience some bullish price action over the next couple weeks. But with that being said, I'm sure you can see what happens next for Bitcoin before then we finally started to bottom out. But that brings us into this chart right here. This is the 2-day chart for Bitcoin. And this chart clearly shows the uptrends that we are currently in on the bigger picture. And so even though we have experienced a correction in the short term for Bitcoin and we've had this short-term downtrend, on the larger timeframes, we are still clearly in an uptrend. Once again, the uptrend has not been broken. This is also the case in the RSI for the 2-day time frame for Bitcoin. But right now, the 2-day RSI is getting extremely close to this line of support, coming in at around 45 approximately. And when you're looking at this upwards trending line of support in the price action, that is coming in at around 52,500. But that is going from candle body to candle body. When you're actually going from candle wick to candle wick, as you can see, that is coming in much closer to where we are right now at a price of around 54,500 US dollars. So for as long as Bitcoin is holding above around 52 to 54,000, honestly, we're still looking really good here on the 2-day time frame. And I've been seeing a lot of people talk about whether or not this price action could lead into a larger crash to the downside like what we saw back in May. But one very strong signal that goes against that possibility is simply looking in the RSI on the 2-day time frame once again. Because as you can see, leading up to the crash that we saw back in May, even though the price action was trending to the upside, looking in the RSI, we were looking extremely weak. As you can see, we were constantly making lower highs and also lower lows. So this was giving us major bearish divergences along the way up here, which obviously led into that crash that we saw back in May. Whereas if you're looking at this uptrend right now, looking in the 2-day RSI, we are trending to the upside. We are constantly making higher lows and higher highs, which is not something that we were seeing back here. So once again, this RSI trend that we saw in the beginning of the year paired with this price action was showing us a lot of weakness in the Bitcoin price by revealing that the bulls were losing momentum with all of these bearish divergences forming. But even though the bears might have control in the immediate short term with that short-term pullback that we're seeing right now, in the big picture here on the 2-day time frame, looking in the RSI, the bulls are still in control. We aren't making any sort of bearish divergences on the 2-day chart. And Bitcoin seriously has a lot of strength here with this major trend to the upside, which once again, we did not see back here. So obviously it is not impossible for us to experience more bearish price action. Nothing is impossible, but this is just something that we're seeing right now on the bigger time frames that we did not see back here. And this potentially goes against the possibility of having a further crash to the downside. And by the way, I revealed part of the content within this video over half a day ago over on my Twitter. So this is why it's super important for you to follow me over on my Twitter if you haven't already, because you're going to be getting all of these extra updates throughout the day in real time. And the link to my official Twitter account is in the description down below and also in the pinned comment. But anyway, that is it for this video. If you enjoyed or got something valuable out of this video, make sure to leave a like down below. And if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe with notifications turned on for more updates just like this every single day. I honestly do appreciate every single one of you here on the channel. I try and say that every video because I really do mean it. And before clicking off, make sure you're checking out these uploads if you haven't already, especially the video here on my top 3 metaverse altcoins, because since the release of that video, all 3 of those altcoins have exploded in value. So anyone that simply watched that video just there up until now, you'll be in huge profits. But anyway, that is really everything I have to say for this video. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.